Sometimes life feels completely ordinary, but later, when you look back, you realize that those ordinary moments were the ones that changed everything. It was a beautiful weekend in Florida, a bit warm, but the breeze was cool. The sky was partly cloudy, and sunlight broke through the gaps, painting everything in a golden glow. I decided to take the family to the park. We all needed a little break from routine. With me were my wife, Emily, my daughter Lily, and my son Ethan. We left early that morning. Emily had packed sandwiches, lemonade, and Lily's favorite cupcakes. Ethan brought his football, and Lily carried her tiny pink backpack, the one filled with dolls she never left behind. When we reached St. John's Park, everything seemed perfect, kids laughing, families sitting near the fountain, and the smell of barbecue drifting through the air. I was helping spread the blanket when Emily smiled and said, "Let's stay here, the view is beautiful." We all ate together, joked around, and talked a little before Ethan and Lily ran off to play football. I sat on the bench, watching them with a cup of coffee in my hand, while Emily sat beside me. Then a small boy, maybe Lily's age, came up to them and said, "Hey, can I play with you guys?" Lily smiled brightly and said, "Sure." They began playing together. His name was Noah, brown hair, blue t-shirt, and a bright smile. Everything seemed normal until one small thing changed it all. Lily kicked the ball a bit too hard. It soared through the air and hit a man right beside his head. I stood up immediately. "Oh, I'm so sorry, man." The man turned and smiled. "No worries, I'm good." There was calmness in his face, but something in his eyes felt off, a kind of tiredness, like he had been fighting something far deeper than life itself. He said, "That's a good kick. She's got power." His name was Thomas, but everyone called him Tom. He shook my hand and said, "Looks like our kids are already friends." I laughed. "Yeah, seems like it." I had no idea that this casual encounter would open the darkest chapter of my life. The day went by beautifully. The kids had ice cream. Emily and I walked around the park for a while. Tom and his family were nearby, so we spent most of the day within the same circle of faces. As evening fell and the sky turned orange, we started packing up. Tom came over and said, "Hey, if you guys ever have time, come over for dinner. My wife loves hosting guests." I smiled and said, "Sure, why not?" Lily jumped in, "Dad, can I go too? Noah's my friend now." I chuckled, "We'll see, sweetheart." It was just a small meeting, but some faces stay with you, and Tom was one of them. 2 days later, I got a message from him. "How about dinner this Friday?" Emily smiled. "That sounds great, let's go." On Friday evening, we all got ready. Emily wore a red dress, Lily her favorite frock, and Ethan as usual in his sneakers. I grabbed a bottle of wine, and we drove to Tom's house. Tom's house was in an old-style building, the white paint slightly faded, a wooden porch, and a large oak tree standing in front. His wife, Clara, greeted us at the door. She was polite and graceful, but her face held a faint sadness, like her smile was hiding something. The dinner table was perfectly set: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and red wine. Both families ate together while the kids ran off to play in the garden. Emily and Clara chatted in the kitchen. Tom said, "Come on, let's grab coffee in my study." His study was filled with old wooden shelves and antique decor. The walls were lined with black and white portraits, faces so lifelike they almost seemed to watch us. I joked, "You into old stuff?" Tom smiled faintly. "You could say that." We sat down with coffee and started with small talk: work, kids, life in Florida. Then after a brief silence, Tom asked, "You ever heard about Ripley's Believe It or Not museum in St. Augustine?" I nodded. "Yeah, heard of it. Never been though, people say it's creepy." He leaned slightly forward and said quietly, "It's more than just creepy. There's something there that doesn't belong in this world." I thought he was joking, but his eyes said otherwise. "You've been there?" I asked. He lowered his gaze. "Yeah, once. Me and my friend Daniel, we were curious, wanted to see if the stories were real." I took a sip of my coffee, and his hand trembled slightly around the cup. "Something answered us," he said, "something that shouldn't have." I thought he was exaggerating, but his voice was so cold, it didn't sound fake. For a few seconds, the room went completely silent. Only the clocks ticking filled the air. He continued. "Daniel wasn't the same after that night. He stopped talking about it. He moved away." I tried to laugh it off. "Come on, man, you're scaring me." Tom looked straight at me and said, "You should be." At that moment, I thought it was just another ghost story, but the look in his eyes told me otherwise. That night, Tom didn't just share a story, he opened a door for me. A door to a world where every sound has meaning, and nothing is ever what it seems. And that world had a name, Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. Tom took a deep breath and set his coffee cup down on the table. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the clock. Faint laughter of children could be heard somewhere in the distance. But that laughter didn't reflect in his eyes anymore. He spoke softly. "That place, Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in St. Augustine, people say it's not just exhibits that are kept there. Something else is there, something that doesn't belong to this world." I just sat quietly. His tone had changed. He wasn't just telling a story now, he was reliving that night. "Me and my friend Daniel went there," Tom said. "There's this tourist night tour, a haunted experience. We thought it would be some kind of fun Halloween act." He gave a faint smile, but it disappeared almost instantly. But the moment we entered, the air changed. The temperature dropped like something had sucked all the warmth out of the place. I asked quietly, "Inside the museum?" He nodded. "Everything there feels strange. Old mannequins, shrunken heads, and faces that look human but aren't alive. The guide warned us not to touch any exhibits, but Daniel..." Tom paused for a moment. Daniel touched an old wooden mask, just slightly. I asked, "And then?" Tom said, "Then the sensor light near that mask blinked. The guide said it was probably static interference, but I saw something moved inside that mask's eye." I almost wanted to laugh, but the expression on Tom's face stopped me cold. He continued. "After the tour ended, the guide said we could stay if we wanted to do some investigation. They had paranormal gear, a spirit box, EMF reader, everything." Daniel instantly said yes. I thought it would be some harmless thrill. Tom's eyes looked distant now, as if he was no longer in the room. We turned on the spirit box, at first just static, then a faint voice, like someone speaking from far away, a name. I asked, "What name?" He whispered, "Steve." He started tapping his finger lightly on the table, like he was recalling a rhythm. Then another word came through the box, "Switch," Daniel joked. "You want me to switch with Tom?" And the box immediately replied, "Yes." My hands turned cold. Tom looked at me. I thought it was just a coincidence, but after that, when Daniel picked up the spirit box himself, there was a faint whistle from it, like someone was whistling, and that whistling matched his name's rhythm. The room was silent. Even the ticking clock felt heavier now. Tom said, "We didn't capture much on the cameras that night. No orbs, no shadows, just one thing, voices." He closed his eyes slightly. "Every time we asked something, we got an answer. Sometimes a word, sometimes a deep growl. Then I said, 'I'm going downstairs.' And instantly the box replied, 'No.'" Tom opened his eyes and looked straight at me. That "no" wasn't just a sound. There was anger behind it, a human kind of hatred. That's when I realized we weren't welcome there. I asked softly, "What happened then?" "We started to leave, but when we reached the exit, the box spoke one last word, 'Die.'" His voice dropped low. I thought someone was playing a prank, but when I talked to the staff, they said, "Sir, we've heard that word before." Tom lifted his cup again, but his hands were still trembling slightly. After that night, Daniel changed. He quit his job, shut off his phone, and a few months later left the city. No one knows where he went. I stayed silent. The room carried a faint scent of old wood and coffee, but it felt like something else was in the air. Tom spoke again, his tone low and uneasy. "There are things in Ripley's you don't see, you just feel them. That voice, that anger, sometimes it feels like it's still around me." For a second, his eyes drifted away from me, toward the corner of the room, as if he was looking at someone else. I thought it was just a trick of light, but I felt a chill brush the back of my neck. Clara's voice came from the kitchen. "Tom, dinner's getting cold." Tom blinked rapidly and snapped back to normal. "Yeah, coming." He looked at me and smiled faintly. "Sorry, I guess I got carried away." I smiled back, but something heavy sat inside my chest. He had told the story so vividly that it didn't feel like fiction. When I drove home that night, the streetlights flickered, and for a brief second in the rearview mirror, it looked like someone was moving in the back seat. I turned around, nothing there. But in that moment, I realized Tom hadn't just told me a story. He had shared something with me. Something that might no longer belong only to him. Next morning, narrow beams of sunlight slipped through the curtains, warm and soft. Emily made coffee and handed me a cup. She asked in a casual tone, "So, how was the night talk with Tom? You both looked serious." I took a sip and said, "Nothing much. He was telling me some creepy story about Ripley's museum." Emily laughed. "Oh, that weird place. People always make up stories about it." I laughed too, exactly. Just another ghost story. But somewhere deep inside, that strange feeling remained. What I saw in Tom's eyes didn't seem like a joke. The day went on as usual. The kids went to school, Emily made the grocery list, and I opened my laptop to check emails. But then, a message came from Tom. "Hey, remember that place we talked about? I'm going there tonight. Thought you might want to come along." I was confused. He's really going there? I replied, "You sure that's a good idea?" His reply came instantly. "Sometimes, the only way to face fear is to walk right into it." I put my phone aside. Emily asked who was that. I said casually, "Tom. He's planning to visit that Ripley's place." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Please don't tell me you're thinking of going with him." I smiled lightly. "Of course not." But inside, something else was going on. Night fell. The kids were asleep. Emily was watching TV. But my focus was on the phone. Tom's message flashed on the screen. "I'm leaving now. Last chance to back out." I looked out the window. The air was cold and damp, the moon hiding behind clouds. For a few seconds, I just stared, then picked up my jacket. I told Emily, "I'm just going for a drive, need some fresh air." Without looking, she said, "Don't be long." I replied softly, "I won't." The sound of the car engine broke the silence. On Florida's empty roads, the streetlights stretched endlessly, and every shadow looked like it moved. Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, St. Augustine, 11:42 p.m. Tom's truck was parked outside the building. I pulled over and said, "You really came?" Tom smiled. "I told you I had to see it again." He grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the gate. The entrance was locked, but he pointed toward a broken fence on the side. "This way, locals use this shortcut sometimes." We both slipped through the fence. Inside, everything was eerily quiet. The air smelled musty, and the old wooden structure creaked from somewhere in the dark. The flashlight's beam illuminated the exhibits on the walls: shrunken heads, ancient artifacts, strange sculptures. Tom whispered, "This place used to be someone's mansion before Ripley bought it." I asked, "You mean people actually lived here?" He nodded, "Yeah, and they say the owner never left." We walked ahead. Each step made the floorboards creak. In a narrow hallway, we heard a faint sound, tick, tick, tick. I pointed the flashlight toward it. The wall clock was stopped. Tom said, "That sound, that's what we heard last time too." I laughed nervously, probably rats, man. But then a cold wave brushed past us, like someone walked right between us. Tom aimed his flashlight at a glass display case. Inside was a doll, dressed in Victorian clothes, and her eyes looked disturbingly real. Below it was written, "The widow of St. Augustine, found near the original mansion ruins." I joked, "Creepy as hell." Tom said quietly, "Last time her eyes were closed." I froze. "What?" He said, "When I came here years ago, this doll's eyes were shut. I remember it." We both looked at each other, and at that moment we saw a faint movement. The doll's hair strands shifted slightly. I stepped back, probably air. But the air was completely still. Then from behind a door came 3 slow knocks. Tom pointed the flashlight there. "That's the basement." I immediately said, "Basement? You're not serious." He replied, "That's where we heard voices last time." I hesitated, but curiosity held me. We descended the old wooden stairs. Below was only darkness. In the basement, there was an old metal door with a small, dusty window. Tom placed his hand on it, and it made a faint metallic groan. He pushed the door. It didn't open. Then he slid the flashlight through the window. Inside, there was only an old rocking chair, slowly moving back and forth. I said, "Who's there?" Silence. Then a female whisper right next to us, "Leave." Both of us stepped back. Tom dropped the flashlight. The beam landed on the wall, and on the wall something was written, "We see you." I thought someone was playing a prank, but Tom's face turned pale. He said, "This wasn't here before, I swear." Then we heard another sound, footsteps on the stairs, wooden creaks, one after another. We looked at each other, and without saying a word, ran upstairs. When we reached the front door, Tom grabbed the handle. It was jammed. I pushed hard. It stuck. Tom yelled, "Push harder." Suddenly, the door burst open, and we stumbled outside. The cold night air hit our faces, as if something was trying to wake us up. Standing by the car, we just stared at each other in silence. I said, "We are never coming back here again." Tom whispered, "You think it'll let us go that easy?" I thought he was just in shock, but the night wasn't over yet. When I got home, Emily was asleep. I quietly lay on the bed, but as soon as I closed my eyes, one image flashed, that doll. And her wide-open eyes, right in the center of my mind. Next morning, I went to the mirror, and in the corner of the glass, there was a faint, dusty handprint. Small, exactly the size of that doll's hand. That's when I realized something from Ripley's came back with us. After that night, life seemed normal again. But somewhere inside, there was a silence that kept growing heavier with time. Emily was back to her routine, the kids were going to school, and I had returned to work. But every morning when I woke up, there was a strange kind of calm yet restless air in the house, like someone was always around, unseen but present. Tom and I had less contact now. He also said everything was normal, but his messages didn't have the same energy as before. Many times when I called, he only said, "We shouldn't talk about it anymore." I wanted the same thing. Just forget it. But some things don't end just because you forget them. One night I was sitting in the living room. Emily and the kids were asleep. I was watching TV, but my mind was elsewhere. On the coffee table, a small shadow moved, as if it was playing with the light. I rubbed my eyes, nothing there. Just a cold breeze passing through. I turned off the TV and began switching off the hall lights. That's when I saw something small at the top of the stairs, like a tiny figure in a white dress standing still. I blinked and it was gone. Next morning, Lily said, "Dad, my doll's dress is missing again." I stayed quiet and said only, "Maybe it fell somewhere." But something heavy settled in my chest. 2 days later, I got a call from Tom. His voice sounded tired. "Hey, I think it's still with us." I asked, "What do you mean?" He said, "Things are moving in my house. Clara heard someone humming in the hallway last night." I stayed silent. He added, "You saw the writing too, didn't you?" I took a deep breath, "Yeah." And the line went dead. That night I decided I had to find out the truth. I went back to Ripley's museum, but this time during the day. At the front desk there was an elderly lady. I asked casually, "You guys had an exhibit about the widow doll, right?" She stayed quiet for a few seconds, then said, "Oh, that display was removed years ago. We don't keep that anymore." I asked, "Removed when?" She replied, "About 6 months back. Some incidents happened, staff started complaining about voices at night. The management decided to put it away." I asked, "Where is it now?" She smiled, but there was discomfort in that smile. "No one knows. We sent it to storage, but it never arrived." My hands trembled a little. "Never arrived." She simply said, "Sometimes things find their own way home." I went back to my car, started the engine, but my eyes stayed on the rearview mirror. The back seat was completely empty, yet for a moment I thought I saw a white flash. I blinked, nothing. Just that air, the same air I had felt inside Ripley's. When I got home, everything seemed normal. Emily was watching a movie, the kids were in their rooms. I didn't say a word, just had a silent dinner. Later that night, while lying in bed, I felt like someone was standing in the corner of my room. I didn't open my eyes. I thought if I look, it won't go away. In the morning, everything looked fine. Except on the dressing table mirror, there was faint writing, like someone had written with fog. "We're home now." I gently wiped it away. The mirror cleared. But as I reached the door, Lily's voice came. "Dad, my doll came back." I slowly looked into her room. On the shelf, the white lace doll was sitting there again, exactly like the one from the museum. Lily said happily, "I missed her." I just stared at the doll. It was looking straight at me, as if it had finally found its place. And at that moment, I understood. Some things can never truly be returned, because they were never gone from us in the first place. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who dares to listen in the dark.